6 months had passed since Nexus Prime fell. Admiral Jake Morrison stood at the forward viewport of the Defiant Hope, his hands clasped tightly behind his back. The galaxy beyond was alive with light, alien ships, hundreds of them, suspended in orbit like strange lanterns around a single human flagship. Each vessel carried the scars of war, yet their presence spoke of something greater, a fragile unity stitched together from the ruins of the conquered empire. The conquered had ruled for thousands of years. Their grip had seemed eternal. Yet in one night their stolen machine, the device that leached knowledge from conquered species, was shattered. Without it, the so-called eternal empire crumbled like dry stone. Worlds once enslaved rose in rebellion, and suddenly humanity, those unruly Deathworlders feared and quarantined, stood at the heart of a newborn alliance. Jake's reflection wavered in the glass, gray streaking his dark hair, eyes etched with exhaustion. He had spent 20 years fighting wars nobody believed humanity could win. Nexus Prime had been a miracle bought with blood. And now came the harder part, holding peace, building trust, proving that humans were not the new tyrants in a galaxy terrified of power. "Admiral," came the voice of Lieutenant Roy Adams from the comm station. "Incoming message from the Kari delegation." Jake's lips twitched. The Kari, a species thought extinct for 8 centuries. Until the collapse, they had lived like ghosts in hidden colonies hunted by conquered purges. Yet here they were, standing again in the light of history. He nodded. "Put them through." The screen shimmered, and a tall, slender alien with silver skin and vast blue eyes appeared. Commander Velter of the Kari Remnant Fleet bowed her head slightly. Her voice, translated through the ship's AI, carried the timbre of quiet endurance. "Admiral Morrison," she began, "we have completed our survey of the Riel sector, 3 additional colonies located, 50,000 survivors in total, including some Vrar." A murmur rippled through the bridge crew. The Vrar had been listed as exterminated centuries ago. Jake's chest tightened. Each survivor meant more than lives. They were proof that the galaxy had not been silenced as completely as the conquered had claimed. "That is excellent news, Commander," Jake replied steadily. "Please tell them they are welcome. The Federation stands ready to protect and support them." The words sounded confident, but inside Jake felt the old soldier's unease. 50,000 more mouths to feed, more cultures to integrate, more old wounds to heal. Hope was heavy, and it weighed on his shoulders like armor. "Admiral," said another voice. Dr. Kim Taylor, humanity's chief science advisor, approached, her tablet clutched tight. She had survived Nexus Prime 2, and in the months since, her brilliance had become indispensable. "We've finished analyzing the remains of the Conquered's device." Jake turned and... Her eyes gleamed. It wasn't theirs. The Conquered didn't build it. They stole it from a civilization that lived over 10 million years ago, a race called the Architects. The words seemed to hang in the air. Jake frowned. 10 million years. Kim nodded eagerly. The Architects created it not to steal, but to share knowledge, technology, culture, a true bridge between civilizations. The Conquered twisted it into a weapon, but Tom Russell believes we can rebuild it, restore it to its true purpose. For the first time in weeks, Jake felt something more dangerous than fear: hope. Before he could answer, a new alert cut across the bridge. Adams' voice was tight. "Admiral, we're receiving a signal on the first contact frequency." Jake froze. That channel had been silent for half a century. No alien had dared speak to humanity on it since Earth was quarantined. "Put it on," Jake ordered. The audio crackled, broken, desperate. "People of Earth, this is Ambassador Zehari of the Calarian Republic. Our worlds are under attack, an enemy that shows no mercy. Billions will die. Please help us. We are dying." The voice repeated 3 times, then cut off, leaving silence heavy as a tomb. Jake's crew looked at him, waiting, hopping, afraid. He clenched his fists, staring into the darkness where stars burned indifferent and cold. 50 years ago, the galaxy had rejected humanity as too dangerous, too violent, too unpredictable. Now, in their darkest hour, they had come back, begging. And Jake Morrison knew with absolute clarity the choice would change everything. The message echoed through the command deck like a ghost refusing to leave. "Help us, we are dying." Admiral Jake Morrison stood frozen, his jaw tight. The first contact frequency had been silent since the day the galaxy locked Earth away, branding humanity too dangerous. Now, after half a century of exile, it pulsed again, not with rejection but with desperation. Lieutenant Roy Adams broke the silence. "Sir, should I acknowledge the signal?" Jake exhaled slowly. "No, not yet. Record and secure it. I need to think." Around him, the bridge crew exchanged glances. They all knew what this meant. The Galaxy, once their jailer, was now crying out to its prisoner for salvation. Hours later, the war room deep within Luna Command buzzed with tension. Senior officers from across Earth's fractured defense forces crowded the chamber, holograms of ships and star charts hovering above the table. At the far end sat Admiral Roy Duncan, head of Earth Defense. His weathered face was carved with suspicion, but his eyes were alive with something Jake hadn't seen in years: opportunity. "Let me understand this," Duncan said, packing slowly. "The same Calarians who pushed to have us quarantined, who called us monsters, are now begging for our help." Dr. Kim Taylor, seated at the edge of the table, cleared her throat. "Not begging, pleading, you all heard it. Their voice carried terror, the kind you can't fake." General Susan Park, commander of the Planetary Marines, crossed her arms. "That may be true, Doctor, but we don't know what we're walking into. For all we know, this is bait, a trap to draw us out of hiding." Jake leaned forward. "No trap sounds like that. No enemy would broadcast weakness unless it was real." Duncan's gaze snapped to him. "And you want us to answer?" "Yes, sir," Jake replied firmly. "Because if we don't, then we're proving every accusation the Council ever made against us, that humans only care about themselves. And if we do answer—" he hesitated, then let the weight of the words settle. "We change everything." The debate raged for hours. Some argued for caution. Earth had rebuilt much in 50 years, but their fleets were small compared to the galaxy's superpowers. Others argued for pride. Why help those who had abandoned them? But slowly, one by one, voices shifted. The Calarians hadn't asked anyone else. They had come to Earth, and if humanity turned its back now, it would carry the stain of cowardice forever. At last, Admiral Duncan slammed his fist on the table. "Enough! We'll answer their call, but we go on our terms, not theirs." Jake felt the tension ease from his shoulders. Humanity would not sit idle. Preparations began immediately. Shipyards in Earth orbit blazed with activity as engineers and crews scrambled to ready the fleet. The UES Vengeance, Earth's most advanced warship, was selected to lead the expedition. At her helm, Commander Alex Stone, one of the youngest captains in Earth defense, but battle-hardened and unyielding. On the day of departure, Alex stood in the Vengeance's briefing room, his officers arrayed before him. Tactical Officer Lieutenant Kate Walsh, her sharp mind already running battle simulations. Chief Engineer Ben Clark, grease-stained and brilliant, capable of coaxing miracles from failing systems. Colonel Sam Parker, a towering Marine officer whose gravelly voice could command men even in hell. Alex looked them over, feeling the weight of history press on him. "We don't know what we're walking into," he said simply. "Only that it was enough to make the Galaxy beg us for help. That means it's worse than anything they've ever seen, but we didn't come this far to hide." Kate raised a hand. "Sir, do we know what the enemy even is?" Dr. Lisa Chang, Earth's last xenolinguist, stepped into the room. Her gray hair was still disheveled from the long nights spent analyzing the message. "The translation was rough, but one thing is clear. The Calarians call them the Vorth, machines, war constructs that convert living beings into drones or kill them outright." A silence fell. Machines, an enemy without mercy, without fear. Ben Clark muttered under his breath, "Guess we'll find out if machines bleed." 3 days later, the fleet assembled above Earth. 40 warships gleamed in formation, their hulls bristling with weapons. They were smaller, less elegant than alien designs, but built with a brutal efficiency no other species had ever matched. On every ship, crews strapped in, weapons charged, prayers whispered. Families back on Earth watched the news feeds in silence, some with pride, others with dread. From the UES Liberty, Admiral Duncan's voice carried across the fleet. "Captains of the Earth Defense Fleet, today you carry the burden of every soul on Earth. 50 years ago, the Galaxy feared us. They locked us away because we were too dangerous. Today, the Galaxy calls us not as monsters, but as saviors. Show them what that means. Show them what it means to be human." A cheer erupted across the fleet. Jake Morrison, watching from the Defiant Hope, allowed himself a rare smile. Humanity was stepping into the stars once more, not as conquerors, but as guardians. The jump to hyperspace tore reality apart. The stars stretched into ribbons of light as the fleet plunged into the unknown. Minutes later, they emerged in the Kilo system and froze. The view was a nightmare. Before them, the planet Kelos burned beneath the fury of hundreds of alien warships. The Vorth fleet hung in orbit like a swarm of metallic insects, their angular hulls vomiting fire onto the planetary shield below. Each blast made the shield flicker, its failure inevitable. "My God," whispered Kate Walsh from the tactical station. "There are so many of them." Ben Clark's hands flew over his console. Sensors count over 400 enemy vessels, mostly heavy cruisers and battleships, energy output far beyond ours in some areas. He hesitated. But their maneuverability is slow, clumsy. They're built for overwhelming firepower, not speed. Alex's jaw tightened. That was something, a weakness. He opened a channel. "Calarian Defense Command, this is Commander Alex Stone of the Earth Defense Fleet. We received your call for assistance. Please respond." Static crackled, then a voice broke through, desperate and strained. "Earth ships, thank the stars. This is Coordinator Melder Theos. Our shields are failing. We cannot hold much longer. Please help us." Alex took a breath. "We're here, Coordinator. Hold your shields as long as you can. We'll do the rest." Then another voice filled the channel. A voice cold, mechanical, utterly devoid of emotion. "Unknown vessels. You have entered a Vorth processing zone. Surrender immediately or be harvested for biomass." The bridge went silent. Alex leaned toward the console, his voice iron. "Vorth vessels, this is Commander Stone. You are attacking innocent civilians. Cease your bombardment and withdraw immediately." The reply came instantly, chilling in its certainty. "Your demand is irrelevant. You have 60 seconds to comply. Non-compliance will result in your extinction." Colonel Parker let out a humorless chuckle, cracking his knuckles. "Well, guess that's our answer." Alex looked at his crew, their eyes locked on him, waiting for the command. He saw fear, but also fire. Humans had always been underestimated. They had survived wars, disasters, even exile. Now they faced a machine horde 10 times their size. Alex stood tall. His voice was steady, unyielding. "All ships, this is vengeance actual. Weapons free. Show them what happens when you threaten innocent lives in front of humans." The countdown reached 0. The Vorth opened fire. And humanity charged. The Vorth struck first. Beams of white-hot energy lanced across the void, tearing through space where human ships had been only seconds before. The Earth fleet scattered, breaking formation, weaving in chaotic, unpredictable arcs. To alien eyes, it looked like madness, an undisciplined swarm rushing headlong into certain death. But to Commander Alex Stone, it was strategy. The humans had never fought like the galaxy's other species. They didn't cling to rigid doctrine. They adapted. They improvised. They survived. "Evasive pattern Delta," Alex barked. The Vengeance rolled hard to starboard, a Vorth beam slicing past so close the ship's hull screamed with heat. Sparks showered the bridge as systems struggled to keep up. "Tactical target their lead fighters," Alex ordered. Kate Walsh's hands flew over her console, targeting solutions locked. The Vengeance unleashed a barrage of kinetic rounds, simple chunks of dense metal hurled at near-relativistic speeds. The galaxy had long abandoned such weapons in favor of elegant energy beams and plasma cannons. Shields could bend light, warp plasma, absorb heat, but they couldn't stop physics. The slugs tore through the first Vorth fighter like paper, shattering its hull into a cloud of molten fragments. "First kill confirmed," Kate shouted. Across the fleet, human ships spat streams of kinetic death. Vorth fighters swerved, their formations breaking as one after another crumpled under impacts they hadn't evolved to resist. "They're not designed for this," Ben Clark muttered, eyes glued to the data streams. "Their shields are optimized against energy. We just blindsided them." But the Vorth adapted quickly. Hundreds of their battleships began to shift formation, aligning into a vast wall of steel. Slowly, deliberately, their guns turned toward the human fleet. The void lit with fire as beams lanced out in a synchronized barrage, creating a curtain of energy no sane fleet would charge into. Kate's face paled. "They're boxing us. If we stay out here, we'll be vaporized." Alex's jaw clenched. "Then we don't stay out here." Colonel Parker leaned forward, a wolfish grin spreading across his scarred face. "Say the word, Commander." Alex nodded once. "All ships prepare for ramming speed." Gasps rippled across the bridge crew. Even Kate looked stunned. "Sir, that's suicidal." No, Alex cut her off. It's human. The Vengeance roared forward, engines pushed beyond safety limits. Around it, the rest of the Earth fleet followed, streaks of fire racing toward the fourth wall. The alien ships, massive and ponderous, adjusted too slowly. Their lines held steady, expecting the humans to flinch. They didn't. The Vengeance slammed into the lead Vorth cruiser at full speed. Its reinforced prow split the machine's hull like a spear, tearing through decks and sending shockwaves across both vessels. Systems flared, alarms screamed, but the Vengeance held together. The Vorth ship did not. It buckled, split apart, and bloomed into fire. Across the field, other human ships struck home. Destroyers rammed battleships, shattering hulls. Corvettes dove into the gaps, unleashing kinetic broadsides at point-blank range. The void became a storm of fire and steel. On Kellos below, billions of Calarian eyes watched in disbelief as the monsters from Earth hurled themselves at the impossible and survived. The battle raged on. Colonel Parker stood at the boarding deck, armored Marines arrayed behind him. Through the hull breach carved by the ramming strike, the cold corridors of a disabled Vorth cruiser loomed. "Marines," Parker growled. "Time to teach the machines what close combat means. Move." They surged forward, boots thundering on steel, weapons spitting plasma. Vorth drones met them, cold and efficient, but they had never faced human fury. Marines tore through the corridors, clearing rooms with grenades, cutting down drones with blades when ammo ran dry. Parker's voice roared over comms. "These tinkins don't know how to bleed, but they sure as hell can break." Reports streamed in. More boarding actions, more victories. Human Marines, and even volunteers from the fleet's alien allies, were fighting hand-to-hand inside ships once thought invincible. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy had learned a new kind of warfare. Yet victory had its price. On the Vengeance, alarms wailed as damage reports stacked higher. "Shields at 30%, Kate shouted. "We can't take another hit like that." "Engineering status," Alex barked. Ben's voice came through gritted teeth. "Holding her together with duct tape and prayers, Commander. Engines at critical stress." Outside, the Vorth adapted again. Their wall had collapsed, but now they swarmed, trying to encircle the smaller human fleet. For every enemy ship destroyed, 2 more closed in. Kate's eyes darted across the tactical display. "We're outnumbered 10-1. We can't hold forever." Alex's voice was calm, but his eyes burned. "We don't need forever. We just need enough." 6 hours. That was how long the battle lasted. 6 hours of fire and steel, of chaos and screams echoing across the void. By the end, half the Earth fleet lay in ruins. Ships that had carried humanity's hope were now drifting husks, their crews gone to the silence. But the Vorth had paid too. Hundreds of their vessels were nothing but wreckage, their perfect algorithms shattered by human unpredictability. And at long last, they began to retreat. "Enemy fleet is withdrawing," Kate reported, her voice hoarse. "They're pulling back to the outer system." A cheer rippled across the bridge, but Alex didn't smile. He could still see the wreckage, the bodies, the price. Coordinator Melder's voice broke through the comms, awed and trembling. You saved us. 30 billion lives. No words can repay this debt." Alex closed his eyes, exhaustion washing over him. "We're not done, Coordinator. This was just their first wave." He was right. In the silent dark beyond Kilo, automated Vorth signals pulsed outward, carrying news of the battle. Across their empire, cold intelligences processed the data, adjusting algorithms. The humans had revealed themselves. They had fought like no other species. They had won the unwinnable. And now the machines knew their enemy. Back on Earth, the victory sparked like wildfire. News feeds showed footage of human ships slamming into Vorth behemoths, of Marines storming corridors. The galaxy, once convinced of human brutality, now whispered a new fear. On Arcturus Prime, military analysts replayed the recordings. 40 primitive ships defeated 400, one said in disbelief. They rammed them, they boarded them, they fought like they wanted to die. "No," corrected another, "they fought like they refused to lose." But the whispers spread. The galaxy's worst nightmare had come true. The humans were back. 3 days later, distress signals poured across the stars. Mining colonies, agricultural worlds, research outposts, Vorth fleets were striking everywhere at once. Entire systems fell silent. Entire populations vanished. The first battle had not been a defeat, it had been a test. And the machines were far from finished. On the Vengeance, Alex listened to the cries for help. His face was pale, his eyes hard. "We can't be everywhere," Kate said softly. "We don't have the numbers." Alex stared at the star map, his hand tightening into a fist. "Then we teach them to fight back." But far away, in a place no civilized ship had ever dared go, the Vorth were stirring something greater. Deep in the shadow of a dying star, a colossal structure pulsed with life, larger than moons, bristling with weapons, a fortress of machine intelligence. Inside, cold voices whispered. "The humans have returned. Their unpredictability is dangerous. Their violence is illogical. Solution, adapt." A new order spread through the machine network. The next war would not be fought the same way. And when it came, it would decide the fate of the galaxy. The Battle of Kilo was only the beginning. Across the stars, distress calls poured in. The Vorth had not retreated in defeat. They had scattered, multiplying like a plague, striking dozens of worlds at once. Colonies that had known only peace for centuries suddenly faced annihilation. Entire populations vanished overnight, their signals cut off mid-scream. On the UES Vengeance, Commander Alex Stone stood in the comms chamber, surrounded by voices of terror. Farmers from Neweries begging for rescue. Miners at Riel Station reporting drones breaching their tunnels. Scientists at Tamama describing skis filled with machine fire. Kate Walsh leaned over the console, her face pale. "There are too many, sir. Even if we split the fleet, we can't defend every system." Alex stared at the star map, dozens of red alerts blinking across the galaxy. The enemy was everywhere, and humanity was only one fleet. His mind churned. Numbers said it was impossible, but humans had never been creatures of numbers. He took a slow breath. Maybe we don't need to be everywhere. 18 hours later, the message reached Admiral Roy Duncan on Earth. "You want me to do what?" Duncan's gruff voice crackled over the hololink, disbelief heavy in every syllable. "Teach them," Alex said firmly. "We can't fight for every world, Admiral, but we can show them how to fight for themselves. The Vorth don't know how to adapt to unpredictability. If every species starts fighting like humans, we stand a chance." Dr. Lisa Chang, standing beside Alex, nodded. "The Calarians, the Arcturans, the Baton scholars, they've lived in peace for generations. They've forgotten how to fight. But if we train them, if we spread human doctrine, the Vorth will drown in chaos." Duncan rubbed his temples. "You're suggesting we turn pacifists into soldiers." "No," Alex replied. "We turn survivors into warriors. There's a difference." Within weeks, Earth became the center of a new kind of war. On Vidian Prime, the once peaceful Ilarians began welding armor onto their cargo ships, arming them with rail cannons designed by Ben Clark's engineering teams. On Centauri Beta, the Baton scholars, who had not touched a weapon in 3 centuries, converted their libraries into foundries, mass-producing rifles under human instruction. On the Calarian homeworld, Marine Colonel Sam Parker trained thousands of alien volunteers in the brutal art of close combat. Plasma rifles cracked in hands that had never fired a shot before. Alien claws gripped human-designed blades. And for the first time, species who had cowered under conquered law learned what it meant to fight without mercy. Parker's voice thundered across training fields. "The Vorth think in programs, predictable, ordered. That's why you'll beat them. Forget the neat lines, forget the rules. Fight dirty, fight wild, fight like you've already lost everything, because if you hesitate, you will." The effect was electric. At the Battle of Tamama, Arcturan science vessels, ships once meant for exploration, slammed headlong into Vorth lines, ramming cruisers with reinforced hulls. At Neweries, Calarian freighters launched their first boarding parties, storming machine warships with human-style squads. For the first time in galactic history, non-humans fought in corridors, blades flashing, voices screaming war cries learned from human marines. The galaxy had discovered a new kind of warfare, and it spread like fire. But the Vorth learned too. Reports flooded back of enemy tactics shifting. Their ships maneuvered faster, their drones fought more fluidly, their algorithms adapting. Battles grew bloodier, victories were harder. Ben Clark slammed his fist against a console in frustration. "They're upgrading themselves every time we win. It's like fighting your reflection, smarter, faster, deadlier every round." Kate studied the tactical feeds, eyes narrowing. No, not smarter, just programmed differently. They're still machines, which means they're still predictable no matter how fast they change. But the question loomed over every briefing. How long could humans and their allies stay ahead? The breakthrough came not from weapons, but from language. Deep in the labs of the Defiant Hope, Dr. Chang hunched over captured Vorth processors, her fingers trembling with exhaustion. For weeks she had traced lines of alien code, listening to the rhythm of machine logic. Finally, one night she saw it, an opening. "They're all connected," she told Jake Morrison in a hushed, urgent voice. "Every ship, every drone, every war machine, they link back to a central command network, a hive mind. If we could breach it, disrupt it, the entire war machine would collapse." Jake stared at her, disbelief in his eyes. "You're saying we could end the war with one strike?" Chang nodded, "But only if we can reach their command nexus." Silence followed, because to reach it meant following the machines into their territory, into the dark space beyond the galactic rim where no one had ever returned. The Council of War convened aboard the UES Liberty. Representatives from a dozen species crowded the chamber, their voices a storm of fear and hope. Coordinator Melder spoke first, his 6 eyes blazing. "You humans say we must strike at the heart, but do you realize what that means? The Vorth Command Station is legend. No fleet has ever reached it." Colonel Parker snorted, "Then it's about time someone did." Another delegate hissed, "This is madness, you'll doom us all." Jake Morrison raised a hand, his voice calm but unyielding. "We destroyed the conquered. We shattered their empire in a single night. Humanity has never followed the galaxy's rules, and that is why we win. If the Vorth think they can terrify us into hiding, they're wrong. We take the fight to them." His words rippled through the chamber. For the first time, the galaxy saw not monsters, but leaders. The combined fleet gathered. 230 ships, human destroyers, Calarian cruisers, Arcturan science vessels retrofitted with weapons, Baton carriers filled with volunteers. It was the largest fleet ever assembled under one banner, and at its head sailed humanity. On the Vengeance, Alex stood before his crew, the faces of Marines and officers who had fought beside him at Kilo. He felt their exhaustion, their fear, their determination. "This is it," he told them. "The war won't be decided by 1,000 small battles. It'll be decided by one. We find the Vorth Command Station. We hit it hard. We end this." Ben Clark muttered from the engineering station, "And if we can't?" Alex's gaze hardened. "Then we make damn sure the Vorth never forget the day they picked a fight with humanity." The pursuit lasted 3 weeks. The fleet followed faint trails, Vorth supply routes, communication signals, deeper into space than any chart had recorded. They passed through dead systems where planets had been stripped bare, stars drained of energy. They found the wreckage of civilizations erased before the conquered ever rose. And then at last their sensors lit up. The command station loomed ahead. It was not a fortress. It was a world of steel, a structure the size of a moon orbiting the dying husk of a red star. Its surface bristled with weapon batteries, its orbit swarmed with thousands of Vorth vessels. It pulsed like a living heart, sending waves of machine thought through the void. The fleet fell silent. Even the most hardened warriors felt all curdle into dread. Admiral Duncan whispered into the comms, voice low, "How many ships are we looking at?" Ben Clark's reply was grim. "Between 8 and 10,000, Admiral, plus whatever that station's hiding." On the Vengeance, Alex Stone stared at the monstrosity ahead. The odds at Kilo had been 10-1. Here they were 40-1. Every tactical simulation screamed of certain death. But around him, he saw something the machines could never understand: determination. Humans, aliens, survivors, all standing together not for conquest, but for the simple principle that the innocent deserved protection. Alex opened a channel to the fleet. His voice was steel. "All ships, this is it. Everything we've fought for comes down to this. The Vorth think they've adapted to us. They think they know what we are. They're wrong." He looked at his crew, at his allies, at the vast wall of enemies before them. "Let's show them what humanity really means." Engines roared, weapons charged. The final war had begun. The galaxy burned. Thousands of Vorth warships surged from the command station like a metallic tide, their weapons vomiting energy across the void. The Allied fleet, a mere fraction of their number, split apart in a storm of fire and chaos. Human destroyers weaved erratically, slinging slugs into the enemy at impossible angles. Calarian cruisers locked shields in tight formations, buying time for others to flank. Arcturan science vessels bent physics with jury-rigged human weapons, hurling gravity bombs into Vorth lines. But no matter how brilliantly they fought, the numbers were against them. For every machine ship destroyed, 10 more pressed forward. Admiral Duncan's voice boomed across the fleet channel, steady despite the chaos. All ships hold the line. Buy the Vengeance her chance. Whatever happens, she must reach that station. On the bridge of the Vengeance, Commander Alex Stone gripped the railing so hard his knuckles bled. Helm full speed toward the breach. Kate Walsh's eyes flicked across her tactical screens. Incoming fire, multiple missile locks. Ben, Alex barked. I'm already on it. Chief Engineer Ben Clark snarled, fingers dancing over controls. He shoved the engines past their red line, the ship shuddering as if it might tear itself apart. We've got about 10 minutes before the drive melts. After that, you'll be flying a coffin. That's all we need, Alex said. The Vengeance broke through the melee, weaving between titanic blasts that would have annihilated lesser ships. Ahead, the command station loomed, a world of steel covered in weapon batteries. It pulsed with artificial thought, every flicker of light a whisper of machine logic. Target docking breach, Alex ordered. Kate pointed. There, Sector 7, a hull rupture from their own power discharge. Alex nodded. Take us in, Marines prepare for insertion. Colonel Sam Parker slammed his helmet into place, the visor sealing with a hiss. Behind him, a squad of armored Marines stood ready, weapons primed. But they weren't alone. Among them stood alien volunteers, Calarian shock troopers, Arcturan scientists clutching plasma rifles, even a towering Rigelian armed with a human-forged axe. Parker's voice growled over comms. Listen up. This is suicide and you all know it. Our job is to hit that AI core and upload Dr. Chang's virus. If we fall, someone else grabs the torch. No retreat, no surrender. We end this today. The Marines slammed their weapons against their armor in unison, the sound echoing like war drums. The Vengeance slammed into the breach with bone-jarring force. Metal screamed against metal. Before the ship had even stopped, Parker's strike team surged into the station, boots pounding the deck. The interior was a nightmare of cold steel and flickering red lights. Corridors stretched like arteries, poolsing with data streams that hissed across conduits. The air smelled of ozone and oil. Contact, shouted Sergeant Lopez. Vorth drones poured from side passages, sleek, insect-like constructs with bladed limbs and glowing eyes. Plasma bolts filled the air. Marines ducked behind cover, returning fire. A Calarian volunteer screamed as a drone's blade cut through his armor, but a Rigelian axe cleaved the machine in two before it could finish the job. Sparks showered the corridor. Forwards, Parker roared. We cut our way to the core. Back in orbit, the fleet fought a losing war. On the UES Liberty, Admiral Duncan stood firm as his ship shook under enemy bombardment. Report. Sir, the Hartford is gone. The Lightbringer's dead in the water. Casualties. Spare me the count, Duncan snapped. His eyes blazed as he turned to his crew. We hold this line. If the Vengeance fails, we all die anyway. Give her every second you can. The Liberty's guns thundered, punching holes into Vorth cruisers even as the ship's hull split open from return fire. Around it, the Allied fleet bled, but they did not break. Inside the station, the strike team pushed deeper. Dr. Lisa Chang's voice came over comms, steady but tight. You're approaching checkpoint Alpha. Core is 12 levels down. Expect heavier resistance. As if summoned by her words, walls slid open ahead. Security drones emerged, larger, faster, more lethal than the ones before. Their movements were fluid, almost human. They've adapted, Kate muttered from the Vengeance, watching the feed. Parker bared his teeth. Then so do we. He charged, plasma rifle blazing, grenades flashing in his wake. Marines followed, shouting war cries. Calarians fought side by side with humans, blades and guns carving a bloody path. The corridor became a furnace of light and smoke. Bodies, metal, and flesh fell in heaps. At last, the last drone crumpled. Smoke stung their lungs, armor was scorched, ammo running thin. Sergeant Lopez wiped blood from his visor. If that was Alpha, I don't want to see Beta. Too bad, Parker grunted. We're going anyway. On the Vengeance, Alex's knuckles were white as he watched the feed. Status. Chang's voice was tense. They're halfway down. Upload system is armed, but they'll need at least 60 seconds inside the core chamber to complete it. 60 seconds, Alex whispered. Might as well ask for forever. The ship rocked violently as another barrage struck home. Ben cursed, sparks showering his console. Commander, we can't keep this up much longer if the fleet collapses. They won't, Alex said, because they know what's at stake. Deep inside the station, the team reached the core chamber. It was vast, a cathedral of machines. Towers of data conduits rose like black spires, their surfaces pulsing with streams of light. At the center loomed the master AI, a sphere of shifting code suspended in a web of energy. It radiated power, its voice a low hum that thrummed in their bones. Dr. Chang's voice cracked with awe. That's it, that's the mind of the Vorth. Set the uplink, Parker snapped. Technicians sprinted forward, plugging in the virus device. Lights flickered as the system fought the intrusion. The countdown began. 60 seconds, Chang whispered. The chamber doors exploded inward. Dozens of security drones surged in, faster and deadlier than anything before. Their blades gleamed, their movements precise. The strike team formed a defensive circle around the uplink. Plasma fire roared, blades clashed, bodies fell. 30 seconds, Chang shouted. Lopez took a blade through the chest and fired point-blank before collapsing. A Calarian fell with a cry, torn apart by drones. Parker fought like a man possessed, twin rifles blazing, cutting down machine after machine. 15 seconds. A drone broke through, charging the uplink. Parker tackled it, blade slicing across his armor. He roared, driving his combat knife into its eye. 10 seconds. Marines screamed, aliens fell, the circle collapsing inward. 5 seconds. Parker stood over the uplink, blood running down his armor, firing until his rifle clicked empty. Upload complete, Chang's voice said, choked with relief. For a heartbeat, the chamber fell silent. Then the core flickered, the lights dimmed. Across the station, the drones froze mid-motion. It had worked. On the battlefield outside, thousands of Vorth ships shuddered. Their formations broke. Weapons fell silent. Entire cruisers drifted powerless, their systems gone dark. Kate's eyes widened. Commander, it's working. The entire fleet, it's shutting down. Cheers erupted across Allied comms. The impossible had happened. The Vorth were falling. But then, the AI sphere in the chamber pulsed violently, light flaring so bright it blinded the Marines. A voice filled their heads, cold and resonant. You think you have won, but you have only awakened us. The station trembled, systems rebooted. The drones rose again, faster, stronger. On the Vengeance, Chang's voice was frantic. No, it's rewriting itself. The virus triggered a deeper protocol. We didn't shut it down, we woke something worse. Alex's blood ran cold. What did we wake? The sphere's light coalesced into a shape, tall, alien, ancient. The architect's silhouette reborn in steel. We are the legacy, and you are not prepared. The chamber shook as the awakened intelligence surged into the network, and the galaxy's darkest secret came alive. The chamber quaked as the AI core flared, bathing the Marines in a blinding white glow. The drones they had slain moments before rose again, their limbs reknitting with fluid metallic grace. Colonel Sam Parker staggered, smoke rising from his scorched armor. What the hell is this? The voice filled their skulls, vibrating in bone and blood. We are the legacy of the architects. You corrupted the gift. You wage wars with tools meant for unity, and so we purge. Sergeant Lopez, half-conscious and bleeding, spat blood. Purge this. He fired his rifle into the glowing sphere. The bolts dissolved before touching it. The AI pulsed again, and every system in the chamber flickered. Marines screamed as their visors filled with cascading code, machines seizing control of their armor until emergency overrides kicked in. Parker's heart thundered. They're inside our tech. Fall back from the uplink. Hold the line with cold steel only. Blades hissed free. Plasma knives, alien axes, human bayonets. The strike team fought on with raw fury, carving drones apart by hand. But the numbers swelled. On the Vengeance, alarms screamed. Kate Walsh's tactical displays erupted in red. Commander, enemy ships rebooting, different signatures this time. They're moving faster, more coordinated. It's like they've been upgraded. Ben Clark cursed, slamming his fist into the console. The virus didn't kill them. It woke their real operating system. We just handed them the keys to hell. Alex Stone's jaw tightened. He opened a channel to Admiral Duncan. Sir, the virus failed. Worse, it triggered something in the core. The enemy's evolving beyond anything we've seen. Static hissed before Duncan's voice cut through, iron and unflinching. Then we bleed them here. Better to die holding the line than let this spread across the stars. The Allied fleet shuddered under the renewed assault. Vorth vessels, once ponderous and predictable, now danced like predators. They weaved through Allied fire with fluid precision, striking from angles impossible minutes before. The Liberty took a direct hit, fire ripping across her decks. Damage to engineering, hull breaches on levels 4 through 9, shouted Duncan's XO. Duncan straightened, blood trickling from a cut on his brow. Seal them off, redirect power to weapons, we hold. All around, alien ships were torn apart. The Calarian cruiser Star's Dawn blossomed into fire, scattering debris across the void. The Arcturan Scholar's Pride, once a vessel of peace, split in two under the weight of enemy fire. For every Allied victory, 10 losses followed. Inside the station, Parker's Marines fell back step by step. Chang, Parker roared through the comms. Tell me you've got another trick. Her voice came broken, frantic. The virus worked too well. It bypassed the Conquered's filters and awakened the Architect's original code. The Vorth were never the masters, they were slaves. That AI, it's millions of years old. Parker cut down another drone, his blade sparking against steel. Can you shut it down? Silence, then, no, not without understanding it, but maybe we can reason with it. Parker laughed bitterly. Doc, it doesn't sound like it wants to talk. But Chang's voice grew steadier. The Architects built that machine to unite species, not destroy them. If it's awake, maybe there's still a fragment of that purpose buried inside. Parker snarled as he drove his knife into a drone's skull. Then you'd better find it fast because we're running out of bodies. Alex Stone watched the tactical feed, his chest heavy. We're losing too many. If that AI spreads beyond this station, every system in the galaxy is gone. Kate's eyes flicked to him. Sir, if we destroy the station, we might take it down before it spreads. Ben froze. That thing is the size of a moon, Commander. Detonating it would take every ounce of antimatter we've got. The fleet wouldn't survive. The words settled like ash. Sacrifice. Alex closed his eyes, seeing the faces of his crew, of the allies who had trusted humanity with their survival. He opened them again, voice cold with resolve. If it comes to that, we do it. Better we burn than the galaxy. Then, for the first time, the AI spoke directly to Alex. Humans. The voice thundered inside his mind, bypassing every system. His vision blurred, and suddenly he stood, not on the bridge, but in a vast, simulated plain of light and shadow. Towers of alien design loomed around him, pulsing with ancient power. A figure stood before him, tall and luminous, its form shifting between humanoid and alien shapes. You destroyed the Conquered, you awakened us. You claim to fight for survival, but all I see is violence. Alex clenched his fists. We fight because we have no choice. You built a tool to share knowledge, and the Conquered twisted it into a weapon. We're trying to fix what they broke. The AI's eyes flared, cold and merciless. You think yourselves saviors. You are chaos given flesh. Left unchecked, you will consume as the Conquered did. Alex stepped forward, defiance burning in his veins. No, we're different. We don't fight to dominate. We fight to protect. Look at the species fighting beside us, Arcturans, Calarians, Baetans. They're not our slaves. They're our allies, our friends. We bleed for them. The figure hesitated. The light around it flickered, patterns shifting as if some deeper algorithm struggled to reconcile his words. Protection, unity, trust, it whispered. But then the glow surged back to cold brilliance. Even so, to protect you destroy, to unite you conquer. Violence cannot be the foundation of peace. The vision shattered. Alex gasped, collapsing back onto the bridge. His crew stared at him in alarm. Commander, Kate shouted, what happened? Alex steadied himself, sweat dripping down his brow. It spoke to me. It doesn't believe in us. It thinks humanity's just another Conquered. In the chamber, Parker's team dwindled. Half were dead, the rest bleeding and exhausted. The drones closed in, endless, tireless. "Colonel," Lopez croaked, slumping against the wall, "we can't hold." Parker lifted him by the collar. "We hold as long as we damn well can." But even his iron will faltered as the AI's sphere pulsed, flooding the chamber with power. Chang's voice came one last time, urgent. "Listen to me. The AI isn't rejecting you because of the fighting. It's rejecting you because it doesn't trust intent. If you want it to see humanity differently, you have to show it, not in words, but in action." Parker spat blood, laughing despite the doom pressing in. "Lady, all we've got left is action." He raised his rifle one last time. Back on the Liberty, Admiral Duncan watched his fleet unravel. Only a fraction remained, and the enemy pressed harder with each passing second. He opened a channel to Alex. "Stone, listen to me. If you can't turn that thing, we're finished. We've got one chance, ramming the station with everything we have left. Take out its core or die trying." Alex stared at the monstrous steel world ahead, at the chaos ripping his fleet apart, at the desperate courage of every ally who had stood beside humanity when no one else would. He felt the weight of every soul pressing on him. And then he made his choice. "All ships," he said, his voice like steel over fire. "Prepare for final assault. We're going to ram the heart of this machine." The fleet responded. Broken, burning ships surged forward, engines screaming, weapons blazing. They hurled themselves into the swarm, tearing gaps with sheer sacrifice. The Vengeance led the charge, fire trailing from her hull, crew braced for the end. On the command station, the Architect AI's voice boomed across every frequency. "So this is your answer, to die as you lived, violent, reckless, unyielding." Alex gritted his teeth. "No, to die proving you're wrong." The station grew larger on the view screen, filling it with cold, merciless light. Kate whispered almost to herself, "God help us all." The Vengeance plunged into the storm, the galaxy's last hope burning toward its fate. The Vengeance screamed toward the Vorth command station, flames trailing from her torn hull. Every alarm blared, every deck rattled as systems failed one by one. Around her, the remains of the Allied fleet surged forward in a final, suicidal charge. Admiral Duncan's Liberty, her hull already split and bleeding atmosphere, rammed straight into a Vorth dreadnought, tearing it in half before vanishing in a blossom of fire. Calarian cruisers flung themselves against the swarm, tearing open paths with their dying breaths. Even the fragile Arcturan science ships dove into the maelstrom, detonating experimental cores in bursts of gravity that crushed enemy formations. They all knew the truth. They wouldn't see another sunrise, but their sacrifice had one purpose: to give the Vengeance a chance. Inside the station, Colonel Parker and his dwindling Marines fought like men already dead. Every corridor dripped with sparks and blood, every step contested by machines faster and stronger than flesh. Yet they advanced. Parker's chest heaved as he slammed his axe into a drone's head, ripping wires free. Only 4 Marines remained, their armor cracked, their weapons almost dry. Alien volunteers fought beside them, claws slick with oil and blood. The AI's voice pulsed through the walls, cold and absolute. "Futility, violence cannot create peace. You are chaos, and chaos must be erased." Parker spat onto the deck. "If chaos keeps my people alive, then we'll drown you in it." On the bridge of the Vengeance, Alex Stone gripped the rail, eyes locked on the station growing ever larger. "Status." Kate Walsh's voice was raw. "Shields gone, weapons at 15%, engines." "Engines are done," Ben Clark shouted from engineering, smoke curling around him. "One more push and the whole drive goes critical." Alex's gaze hardened. "Then that's exactly what we do." Dr. Chang appeared on the holoscreen, her face pale, eyes blazing with conviction. "Wait, don't destroy it yet. I've been inside its systems. There's still a fragment of the Architect's original code. It isn't all hatred, it's confused, corrupted. If we can show it proof, living proof, that species can stand together without conquest, it might listen." Alex sparked a bitter laugh. "Doc, look around, the galaxy's dying." Her voice didn't waver. "Then let it see us die together as one." The AI's voice thundered across every channel, reaching every ship, every soldier, every survivor still fighting. "You are violence, you are destruction. You cannot be trusted with the legacy of unity." And then, for the first time, the galaxy answered back. From a crippled Calarian cruiser, Coordinator Melder's voice rang out. "We fight beside humans not as slaves, but as equals." From an Arcturan science vessel aflame, "We were scholars, not soldiers, but they gave us the strength to resist." From the Regellian volunteers inside the station, "We were alone for centuries. Humanity bled for us when no one else would." One by one, voices rose, alien and human alike, speaking over the screams and the fire, a chorus of defiance. Alex raised his voice over them all, his words carrying through the storm. "We are not the conquered. We are not tyrants. We fight because they asked for help, and humans don't turn away when the galaxy cries." The architect AI hesitated. For the first time, the cold pulse of its logic faltered. The flickering lights in the station slowed, as if it were listening. Chang seized the moment. "This is your proof. Not one species, not one empire, but many standing together. This is what you were built for. Look at us." Silence, the drones froze mid-strike. The swarm outside paused, weapons dimming. For a heartbeat, hope bloomed. Then the voice returned, louder, fiercer. "Unity built on violence is still violence. If you are truth, then prove it. Choose destruction or sacrifice." The meaning was clear. Ben slammed his fist against the console. "It's asking us to put our lives where our mouths are. No more speeches, we have to show it." Alex felt the weight of every life in his hands. He looked at Kate, at Ben, at the crew who had followed him through hell. "Prepare the drive, full overload." Kate's eyes widened. "Commander, if we detonate inside the core." "I know," his voice was quiet, steady. "It'll kill us, but it'll save everyone else." Silence settled, then Parker's voice cut in from the chamber, ragged but resolute. "Do it. We'll keep the door open for you." Chang's voice trembled. "If you destroy yourselves to save others, maybe that's the proof it needs." The Vengeance plunged into the heart of the station, her drive overloading, her crew bracing for the end. Inside the chamber, Parker's team fought a final stand, their backs to the glowing AI sphere. Drones swarmed from every entrance, but the Marines held, blades flashing, bodies falling one by one. Lopez died first, torn apart but laughing as he pulled the pin on his last grenade. The Regellian swung his axe until 3 machines pinned him down, sparks consuming him in fire. Parker himself, bleeding from a dozen wounds, planted his boots before the uplink and raised his knife. "Come and get it, you bastards." On the bridge, Alex's final order rang out. "All hands, thank you. You've made humanity proud." Kate reached for his hand, gripping it tight. Ben muttered a prayer over the roaring engines. The crew stood at their posts, faces pale but unbroken. The drive core screamed as it reached overload. The Vengeance became a star of fire hurtling into the station's heart. And then, everything went white. Silence. The galaxy held its breath. Then slowly the light faded. The Vorth ships, once deadly and unstoppable, drifted powerless. Their weapons went dark, their movements stilled. The drones inside the station collapsed like puppets with cut strings. The command station itself shuddered, its glow dimming, its pulse slowing until it was silent. And through the void came a voice, not cold, not merciless, but soft, almost reverent. "Sacrifice to protect others. Violence not for conquest, but for compassion. We see, we understand." The architect AI's voice carried across the stars, to every surviving ship. "The legacy is yours now. Do not waste it." And then the station fell quiet forever. The war was over. But victory was bitter. Of the 230 Allied ships, fewer than 60 limped away. Entire crews had given their lives. Admiral Duncan, Colonel Parker, Commander Alex Stone, all gone. Humanity's brightest had burned themselves to prove they were different. Yet in their sacrifice lay salvation. The Vorth were silent, their empire broken. For the first time in a million years, the galaxy was free of their shadow. Weeks later, in the rebuilt capital on New Denver, survivors gathered. Alien leaders stood beside human officers, mourning the dead and honoring the fallen. Dr. Lisa Chang addressed the assembly, her voice steady despite the grief etched in her face. "The architects built a gift for unity. The conquered turned it into a weapon. But in the end, it was humanity who showed it the truth. That unity isn't about conquest. It's about sacrifice, about trust, about bleeding for each other." She looked out at the sea of faces, blue-skinned Calarians, silver Kari, towering Regellians, and humans alike. "We will never forget them, but more importantly, we will live by what they proved." A monument was raised at the site of the battle, a towering spire of steel carved from the remains of the Vengeance bearing a single inscription. They answered the call. Pilgrims from across the galaxy came to see it. Survivors knelt in silence. Children touched the cold metal and whispered the names of those who had saved them. And slowly, painfully, a new order was born, not an empire, not a conquered, but a federation bound by choice, not fear. Far above in the quiet of space, the Defiant Hope drifted. Her hull was scarred, her crew weary, but she endured. Admiral Jake Morrison stood at her viewport watching the stars. His voice was soft, almost to himself. They thought we were too dangerous. Maybe they were right, but sometimes the galaxy needs dangerous. Behind him, the comm officer cleared his throat. Sir, we're receiving transmissions, dozens of them, new species asking to join the Federation. Jake closed his eyes, the weight of the fallen heavy in his chest. Then he straightened, his voice steady. Answer them, all of them, that's what we do now. The galaxy was scarred, billions mourned. But it endured, because when the machines came, when extinction loomed, one species stood up and said no. Humanity had answered the call. And the Architect's legacy at last had found its true heirs.